That you're going to build this thing on?
Yes. Where it is located right now, our architect has given us estimates, and that's where the $19 million is coming from.
Oh, okay, there's some tear down cost in there.
That's all included.
It's all built into the cost.
It's turnkey. Destroy the old shell.
Okay, well, suppose you get the other property that you were talking about that's farther on that little black log.
Well, we don't need that. I'm just saying it would be nice if they gave it to us.
Okay, assuming they do.
Okay.
I mean, this.
No, so let me clarify. It's not farther on up Little Black Log. It's actually adjoined to the back of the hospital. It's just extending the property behind the hospital.
So, okay, well.
So it's the same size.
Yeah.
All right, okay, all right. So then basically it has no effect on the cost of the property then today. I mean, you either tear down and build where you're at now, or you tear down and build where you're at now. Just expand on upwards a little bit. Okay. So, all right, so there's not going to be any surplus to the old Sheldon Park property?
No, sir. If it's built there.
All right, okay.
And let me just say, the reason why it's part of my discussion or dialogue about going back is because in the discussion with the architect and some engineers, that front part of Sheldon Clark is below the floodplain. It is a holler, and it floods. We get water there. So the further back, actually, in the back parking lot, the further back you go, right directly behind Old Sheldon Clark, the higher the elevation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm saying if we go back a little bit, tear it down and go back a little bit, we would be at a higher elevation where there would be proper drainage.
Yeah, well, that's okay. This scuttlebutt in community was that you were looking at another parcel. Okay, well,
There could be an alternative.
Well,
Yeah, there could be.
right.
Yeah, okay, there could be, but there should be
But not
cost associated with that, right?
Okay.
so there's a potential alternate site that's not at the current Sheldon Park location.
That hasn't been determined.
That hasn't been determined, no. But I'd like to see it.
Okay, what's the time frame to be determined on that? A week, a year? Well, it has an effect on the cost of this thing because assuming there's an alternate site that comes into the board's hands without cost, then you have an asset to sell to apply to the cost of the new structure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which would affect your tax rate.
I think it all hinges on the availability of funding. It depends on how much funding the state provides on what we do or which site selection we do. If the state provides emergency funding, then we might have an option of looking at additional sites because we may have funding to do that.
But that's not settled yet.
It's not simple.
Do you have an idea on the time frame on that?
April 13th is, or April 15th is the closing of this session, unless they have to come into a special session. So that would be the soonest that as the legislation that is written and introduced by Representative Hall and Senator Jones are advocating. That would probably be the soonest we would know. Then it may go into conference and special session if they can't get a bill signed. But that's why when we talk about the another $15 million, within that $15 million is a site selection for a co-located ATC. And site selection.
Well, those two need to be on the same parcel if at all possible.
Yes, sir.
You know, I watched the Skywalk thing come and go all in one board meeting one time. You know, it could have been there years ago, but it didn't. Neither here nor there. Now, the tax rate you said was 50 what? 0.5 what?
53.8.
53.8. I looked on the tax bill this afternoon that I've gotten. It was 60.
68.6.
Now, and I called the PBA office and asked them what the tax rate was, and she said it's 60.2 or 0.6020.
That's correct.
Correct.
That's the current rate.
That's the current rate, and you're going to raise it to what? Now, wait a minute. Current rate is 60.02. You said it's 50 what?
No.
You said a while ago it's 0.5.
5, 12, 13 year.
Yeah.
Before this last August, where the 4% was put on,
That was a compensating rate.
no, we didn't do compensating rate.
Okay. All right, so it went up 4% last year, which is above and beyond the 4% compensating rate. Now you're wanting to go up to what?
It will go up to 68.6, is that right?
Okay, have you checked around in the neighborhood and see what these other people are paying?
68.6.
Lawrence County, Johnson County, Floyd County? You checked on her, somebody mentioned a while ago about our employment here, the lack of employment. I think you're too high. I think you need to do something else.
Amen.
I'm all in favor of the school. I'm in favor of facilities. I'm in favor of educators doing their job. I am. I have grandchildren in school. I taught in this system. There's a lot of good people in it. Work hard. Very concerned about the kids. And through the years here, I never said anything. I never come to a school board meeting. I think this may be the second school board meeting I've been to in my life. And I checked Lawrence County to see what their tax rate is. I checked with Johnson County. Johnson County, 36.9. Lawrence County, 49.9. Floyd County, I thought was the highest, 57.9, but I checked on average. It's already at 60.2. Now we're going to go to 68. The per capita salaries in this county is only $14,785 a year. The median household income $25,173. The average tax bill here at $408. School tax, not everything else. School tax. The average school tax in Johnson County, $263 a house. I don't know how in the world they got that rate down so low over there. Maybe they fixed the roof every now and then. And I know you all have not been here forever either, so that's not it, but it's like a continuing cycle. We went from a $10 trillion debt in Washington to a $17 trillion debt. It just continues. And the only place that can stop is on the lower level. I'm for the school system. We had a magistrate here. They want to build a $7 million building over there for a clerk's office, a PVA office, and I guess some other suites. That's $7 million in this building. Have you ever, as a board, asked them if they would care to contribute some? That's $7 million in this building. You're paying $80,000 a year rent. That's silly.
Yep.
And it's also silly that they won't give it to you. That's even worse. This is all tax money. Everybody else's money. I mean, it would be real simple to adopt a resolution asking the fiscal court if it would care to chip in some money. We all live here. But, a nice suite is a nice suite. But what's the real bottom line benefit to the kids? I think you need to consider the possibility that this may go for a vote. I think you need to come up with some more concrete figures. And like I think Mr. Harmon said something about the tax to be on, or somebody said as long as the bonds are there. The Board of Education bonded when they bought or built Warfield Elementary and Inez Elementary to put a 3% utility tax on. And I know money's got to come from somewhere. I know that. The utility tax is going to sunset or die whenever the bonds got paid off. But I still get a utility tax on my water bill, on my phone bill, on my electric bill.
One thing, just mention, you talk about all these taxes, which I look at my tax bill, and I hear about complaining about the school tax. I live here, as for the comparison, you guys are paying a lot more for library tax. But,
library taxes, library had a bigger budget than the sheriff's office.
But I'm saying, as far as comparison, the school tax is nothing compared to what you pay as far as the library tax.
No.
I'm not looking
You
at
think about
library.
the county tax, the county receives less money than the library from the property taxes.
I'm just looking at my taxes, so I compare what I pay as for the library tax compared to what I'm paying school tax. I'm just looking at that. But I understand. I appreciate your guys' comments, and I understand the hardship that we cause, and, our kids are under some hardship too, and, I understand.
I grew up in hardship. I was 40 years old before I knew I grew up poor. And went to school this old INS high school, just like you did.
My dad worked 35 years in the coal mines, on his hands and knees. We can get into discussing.
Yeah, that's not the issue.
No, it's not.
But,
Mr. Young, if you could kind of finish up your comments.
Yeah.
well, I think we might look at a possible petition to put this on the ballot. I am pro-facility, I am pro-education, and like I said, we have the same goal.
Yeah, I understand. And you have a choice, either you can put our kids in a new facility, or if you want to renovate the old, that's your, that's your prerogative.
Well, I don't see concrete figures here.
Well, I think we can offer more when we look at the county legislature, and hopefully we will get the emergency funding, and before we can be considered, this is one of the reasons before we can even be considered for that.
Well, the thing about it is, we're gonna have to spend close to what, Mr. Meadows said. If we stay where we are, if we stay down as middle school, we're gonna have to spend roughly that amount, maybe
I know.
maybe $14, $15 million to renovate a school that was not designed to be a high school.
Oh, I know.
But it's not what.
To me, it's a no-brainer. If you could take that money that you're going to spend to renovate the middle school, get emergency funding, and build a new high school, that's.
I agree.
I mean, that's.
But
Yeah, this is not about.
And taxes hit me just like they do everybody else.
Yeah, it's not about me. It's like you said, it's us. It's Martin County. If we want, and it's like we're all in this together. Hopefully, and if we decide we want our kids to have a new facility as good as anybody in the state of Kentucky, which I talked to an individual the other day, and he said, I'm willing to pay. It's going to be $25 more. I'm willing to pay that for our kids if it goes directly for that new school. I don't want to go into anything else. And he doesn't have any kids or grandkids. Or, if we can do that, or it's us. I represent my constituents, my district, and I want what they want. And if we decide we prefer to just renovate the middle school, that's what they want for their kids, then if that's what we want, majority, then that's what we do.
Well, I prefer to see something like it go to Belfry.
And again, I know the hardship, I know. But what do you want for your grandkids? What do you want for your kids? That's what I'm saying.
And the thing is, I'm optimistic. I mean, I
just hope and pray that, like Gary's going to get ready to say, that the legislators down there will see, and I think they do.
See, why should we have to do that? The state come in here. Now, I'm with you guys. I really am. Because why should our children punish because somebody wanted a road to go through there? Why should our children punish? Why aren't they in here doing something? Mm-hmm. And when I voted for this tax, this was what I was told. But this shows the state we're serious. So if the state doesn't give us the money, then what happens to this? I voted under false pretenses.
I think.
And that angers me, that I was told, the state's going to do this if we do this. And now I'm hearing, if we don't get it, that's what
I understand what you're saying.
I think we all should load up and go down there and ask them where school's at. That's what I think. But and I love my kids. I have a child right now. He's cramped. He's miserable, in the school. I had to rape and scrape to pay my taxes, in January. I know what it's like on both ends. But I'm tired of people sitting up in Kentucky or Washington, D.C. or whatever, reared back on their own sweet time whenever they decide to do something, while we sit here and wait and have to pay for everything. That's wrong. That's just wrong.
I'd like to make one more comment. What you said there a minute ago, that you work pretty considerate of what they
Yeah,
want.
I can see, yeah.
Okay, why can't we do that then? Put it on the ballot, let everybody in Martin County vote on it,
You can,
if you have to go for the thing.
yeah, you can do that. I mean, I outlined in the paper how that's done. I mean, it's
If
not
they
a,
vote in, fine, I'm for the kids.
Yeah.
I'm for the school. There'll be a different way of doing it. Look at Pike County, I go for a drive around, they got the state of the art schools. Their worst school looks like better than
And which they put the nickel tax
they
on.
put the nickel on.
what they done.
Yeah, that's how they got that.
I never checked the Pike County tax rate, I don't know what it
That's
is.
how they got the new, that's how they got the new schools, right?
Well, Lawrence County also got this with the lowest tax rate.
I wouldn't want Lawrence County if they got new schools, I know they got nice facilities, I've been there.
Well, their tax rate's 49.9, and ours is already at 60. Johnson County at 36.9, Floyd County at 57.9.
Why not just put it on the ballot, let the people vote on it, and
That's sometimes you can't. You have to play on the junior varsity before you can get into the senior varsity. And we're not in a financially astute
I
area.
agree, I agree with you. We're looking at it right now. This is our opportunity. I don't think it's gonna come again.
My directors can't even get a bus house. Do you know how long I've asked for a bus house? Let alone a schoolhouse. A bus house.
Well, if you
Those
work
two-
paying $80,000 a year in rent, you could afford a bus house.
Well, I don't know.
Thank you.
My name's Larry Devon. I got a daughter in Shelton Park High School. She's a straight A student, got 4.1 something other grade point average. I'm all for a new school. But they could be some cuts in the county school system to raise some of that money besides putting it all on the taxpayer. I mean, just like the $80,000 you pay here a year, you got 2 elementary schools on this side of the hill and 1 on the other side of the hill. You could close one of the elementaries and combine it with Warfield and Iron or Eden, whatever, and take one of them buildings for your central office instead of paying $80,000 a year. That's done paid for. And if Jim Booth closes his mines down, Mark County's gonna be a ghost town. I mean, there ain't gonna be nothing here. And if kids do get education, there ain't nothing here for them to do. They're gonna have to leave here to get a job because there ain't nothing here. The county officials, they won't bring no factories in. They won't bring nothing in for them. And I mean, go to school to go down to McDonald's and flip burgers for $7 there. I mean, people's gonna have to give and take and try to get something in this county for people that's going to school to get education so they can come to Martin County and work. It ain't no need of raising them up in Martin County and then leave.
First of all, I want to commend you as a parent and your daughter, and commend her as far as grades, and sounds like she's doing a fantastic job. And one of the opportunities our kids have as far as a good education, and and what you said, and I think one of the things that we've looked at and considering about, going K through 8, Warfield K through 8, and closing a couple of. That's we were looking at that. Exactly what, and I appreciate your comments, and if there's anything we can do to make it better for your daughter, you speak up and let us know, because that's what it's about, the kids of Martin County.
But, just like the gym, the Iron middle school gym ain't big enough for them to play basketball, and they ship them to Warfield to play their basketball game. Why couldn't they have the middle school at Warfield Middle, the high school, and kept Iron Middle for the middle school students, instead of having to go back and forth? I mean, Warfield's a whole lot bigger school than mine is.
Honest has more classrooms than Warfield does.
Well, more classrooms, but it's got more space. They're over at Inez, when they eat dinner, they have to go. They ain't got enough room in the cafeteria for them all to eat
They
dinner.
gotta go in the gym and eat, right?
They go in the gym. They go everywhere, just wherever they eat. I mean, at Warfield, they could have all sat in the cafeteria. And ate. I mean, the gym's there. I mean, why did they just choose Inez Middle instead of Warfield? Warfield's another school and everything.
Well, the state, if I understand, the state had recommended this. I mean, they recommended this a long time ago about making Warfield countywide middle school and Inez a high school. That was it.
It wasn't a recommendation at the time, it was a mandate. The board didn't have a choice.
Yeah, well, that was it. Well, we had a choice as far as coming up with an alternative plan. We didn't. I wasn't on the board at that time. but we didn't, the plan was to convert Inez Middle School to the high school, make Warfield, and that was a recommendation by the facilities, division down there. We, when I say we, the past board, could have come up with an alternative plan. We could have come up with something and didn't. We left it.
I don't think that, I don't want to argue,
Well,
but
what's
I don't
that?
think that option is there. What I think is.
Oh, no, the option's there. I thought
If the funding for the project fell through and we were pretty much stuck with status quo. There was never a failure on the part of the board to come up with an alternate plan. It just sort of disappeared when the money disappeared.
Well, this was roughly 8 or 9 years ago.
Right.
And it was, I remember talking to the facilities to, what's the guy's name? He was at the,
Mike.
no, it's, Lucas. Huh? Tim Lucas, yeah.
It was-
Actually, I talked to him some time ago.
It was
And
7
because
years
I remember
ago.
talking to the superintendent. I talked to the superintendent. It was Mark's first year, and he said that, well, that's not the state's call; it's our call. So I called people down at the state. And he said, well, yeah, that's true. It is the board's call. We make the recommendation, but this is what we recommend, and they can come to a state board of education meeting. From what I can understand, later on that year, around the time, and come up with an alternate, come up with something else that the state would look at. Something else, the proposal. I mean, the whole thing behind closing Sheldon Clark High School down was it was the building, the school system that was in the worst shape, take a lot of money, and that Inez would handle 700 students, which I didn't agree with. Inez, according to the state, serviced more kids than Warfield Middle School. I don't see that, but that's what they, that's what they said at the time. That was. I mean, the fact that we amended the facilities plan to include construction of a high school showed that it wasn't mandated, that it was our call anyway. I mean, argue the call should have been made 8 or 9 years ago to do something. You have too much facility space for the students we have. That's it. I mean, that's the whole problem, and it should have been tackled.
I think, again, like, we've got some good points, and I think we've looked at square footage, this and that, and what's going to accommodate the numbers. But let me tell you, our kids, your grandkids, your daughter is suffering because of decisions that's been made in the past. We're all suffering for poor decisions. And logically, and I hope we don't offend anyone, but when we all know, it's just common sense, that when all this came about, you consolidate your 2 middle schools and you build a new high school, and you wouldn't have this problem. But it didn't happen. And now you guys are suffering, your kids are suffering.
I mean, the state
and we've got put in it's a tough situation. I want the best for our kids. I've taught school for 38 years. The reason I taught school, because I love being around kids. The reason I'm board member, because I love kids. And I understand, and I know where you're coming on the tax and the hardship and this and that that we've been placed under. But we got to sit down and we got to come up. We got to do this together. What is best for the kids of Martin? What's best for your grandkids? What's best for your kids?
That's what I wanted 22 years ago when we needed a new high school then.
Yeah.
I mean, why didn't they start working like then?
Yeah.
Because the administration you had, nobody looks out for tomorrow. They always looking what they got in their hand today. They ain't worried about the future.
No, let me tell you what the problem is. The problem is not just here in Martin County. The problem is that we, the people, for some reason, are afraid to express our opinions, thinking that somebody's going to get mad. I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. I think I can disagree with Roger 7 days a week and be friends with him.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
But the people in the hills are a quiescent people. we're afraid we're going to make somebody mad. And to disagree as to what color a black sheep is not reason to get upset at somebody. You know.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's like, finally, after years, and I wanted student council. I want some input. I want to know what our kids think. I want to know what they want. I want to hear it from them. And we finally got one where we can get some input from kids.
Yeah.
And I want them to have some input on this situation too.
Good.
I mean, you get on the phone, okay, and I've got other job besides this job. You know, I get on the phone and I say, okay, what can we do to straighten this thing up? Because my whole thing is, look, the past board went with renovate 9S middle school, cost $13-14 million, fine. I mean, that's what they went with. That's on the facility plan. Let them do it, okay? To me, that was all right. That was acceptable. I mean, hey, that decision was made a long time ago before I even got on board. But then I called down and started talking to people in Frankfurt, like, you know, Mr. Lucas. And you realize that even that's not going to solve. It's not, it's a mess. Things are a mess. I mean, really, things have gotten into, you know, to the point where they're a mess, to where I can understand why they scream downstate that you've got to do something about your facility. You've got Warfield Middle School designed to hold 435 students. The last year that they had school over there, just the middle school, just the Warfield kids there, had right about 150. 150 kids in a school designed for 400. I mean, you got 300. You know, the potential to put 300 more students there. So what do? We bus everybody from all over the county to the extreme end of the other county. I mean, that would be why I wouldn't be for putting high school there. It's not fair to the kids that live over in Rogers District or live all the way down to, you know, the Lawrence County line to attend a school that's located at the extreme eastern end.
What about the kids in head of Meat House that lives in Pike County, the ones in the head of 292 that lives in, you know, the Pike County line, bus to this side of the county?
You know, well, the whole thing about it is, and I'm from that side of the county, at least Sheldon Clark High School was centrally located. I mean, it was a little bit, you know, I'd say it's farther away for the kids that live up, you know, Pike County, but it's about the best you could do as far as being centrally located. So I did like that. You know, think of the fuel that we're paying out, the fuel cost in busing all these kids, busing all of our middle school kids, all the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders go to Warfield. And we've got to make sure that they get there. I mean, I agree with something that Mr. Meadows said. In the past, when we have built schools, we have built them with students in mind. I mean, why did we build a school at Warfield Middle School to hold what it's holding today when we knew 20 years ago that students weren't going to be there? The reason they got permission to build it as big as they built it is because 4th and 5th graders from Warfield Elementary and Pidgeoneuse Elementary was supposed to be moved into that school. That's how they got permission to build it that big. Okay.